Fats are the second most difficult nutrient for us to absorb. The protein is probably the hardest, I shouldn't say absorb, but digest. Protein is probably the hardest nutrient to digest. Fats are the second hardest nutrient to digest, and they're chapter 2 in our Handbook of Good Nutrition. Now, there's different kinds of fats. You all heard the term saturated fats, I'm sure, correct? If you grew up like me in the 1960s and 1970s, you probably heard how bad saturated fats were. You guys remember that? And you probably heard how good unsaturated fats were. It's Mazola. Remember the Indian guy? Well, as it turns out, that's bad information. As it turns out, saturated fats are not all that bad, and you need to have saturated fats. In fact, butter is one of the best saturated fats you'll ever eat. You guys know how good butter is for you? Amazingly good for you. Butter is a source of not just wonderful substance called butyric acid. Anybody heard butyric acid? Butyric acid is a fat that butter gets its name from. Butyric acid butter. And it's so important for you that your intestine runs on butyric acid. Your intestinal cells use butyric acid as a fuel. So butter will actually help you digest your food. Butter will help you process food via the fatty acid butyric acid. Joe?
Is it the same as GABA?
No. No.
Butyric acid?
Oh, no, you're thinking of...
alpha.
Yeah, you're thinking of gamma... there's a different...
butyric acid or something?
No, it's a little bit... It's very similar. I think... what are you talking about? GHB. Gamma hydroxybutyric acid, you're thinking of. GHB, have you guys ever heard of GHB? GHB was all the rage as a bodybuilding supplement. That's a little different. Similar chemically, though. Butyric acid is a fatty acid that's found in butter. It's one of the main reasons why you want to make sure you're eating a lot of butter, but there's also selenium in butter, there's iodine in butter. Butter is just and plus it tastes great, right? And it's very stable to cooking. One of the important things about oils is they're not stable to cooking. In fact, the brown stuff or the black stuff that comes off the frying pan, that stuff is very carcinogenic. That stuff you want to stay away from. And the same thing about meats, too. Burning meats, the same thing. Everybody likes charbroiled meats and barbecue meats. Make sure you're putting mushrooms on top of your charbroiled meats. Make sure you're putting papaya and tomatoes on top of your charbroiled meats. Make sure you're putting vegetables on top of your charbroiled meats because they will detoxify the carcinogenic compounds that's in the burnt stuff. Anytime do you guys know about this? Burnt food represents pro-carcinogens. The burning, in fact, cancer was first discovered in chimney sweeps in England. They used to use little boys to clean the chimneys. Back in the Industrial Revolution in the 1700s, they used little boys because little boys could fit into the chimneys. And they noticed that the little boys were having these incredible high rates of testicular cancer. These little kids were getting it, and usually it was very rare for little kids to get it, and they linked, that's when they first discovered cancer, and it was first discovered when it was linked to the soot and the smoke in the chimneys. And as it turns out, soot and smoke are very, very carcinogenic, which is one of the reasons why cigarette smoke is such a problem. In any case, anything burnt is going to increase, is going to change the way cells behave and increase the likelihood of cancers, and that includes protein and it includes meat, or includes oils, which is why butter is such a functional fat, because it's very, very stable to heat. Same with coconut oil, which is another type of saturated fat that is extremely good for you. Extremely good for you. Maybe even better than butter. Coconut oil contains, I'll get you in a second. Coconut oil has a special kind of fat in it called MCT. Anybody hear MCT? Have you heard of it? Medium chain triglyceride. Medium chain triglyceride is so important that it's used in hospitals as a source of fat for people who cannot absorb fat. I used to work at Children's Hospital in Denver, and or University Hospital in Denver, and one of the claims to fame of University Hospital in Denver is they used to deal with all of the childhood gastrointestinal problems from the entire region. So we used to have all the kids who had Crohn's disease and intestinal diseases, and from Wyoming and from Nevada and from Colorado, they would all come to Children's Hospital. And my job as a pharmacist was to provide these kids with medicines. And one of the main medicines that all these kids were on was something called MCT. Medium chain triglycerides, which is a special kind of fat that's found in coconut oil that gives you instant energy without having the body to process it. MCT oil gives you instant energy without you getting fat. One of the problems with fat is it can get stored as fat. MCT oils, you don't have that problem. It goes right to work. So if you're trying to lose weight and you want energy, if you're exercising and you don't want to be using a lot of fat, use MCT, and coconut oil is one of the best sources of MCT, in addition to the fact that coconut oil also is very stable to heat, and it tastes great. So you got two awesome saturated fats that you should be cooking with. They're the two most important fats to be cooking with. So unlike what we all heard in the 1960s and 1970s, saturated fat isn't all that bad for you. On the other hand, surprise, surprise, unsaturated fats, which you all heard we're supposed to eat lots of, they're not stable like the saturated fats. They're very unstable. They burn very readily. They turn into carcinogenic compounds very readily. In fact, there's a lot of literature to support the fact that unsaturated fats from corn oil that we're all told we're supposed to eat, and sunflower oil, and safflower oil, and grain oils in general are behind many of the inflammatory diseases that we're dealing with. If you are going to use an unsaturated fat, like safflower oil or sunflower oil or soy oil or canola oil or most of the fats that we eat, you want to make sure it's super fresh. You want to make sure you're not cooking with it at too high a temperature and creating smoke. And you want to make absolutely sure, if possible anyway, that it's GMO-free and it's organic and it doesn't have a lot of toxic compounds in it. And it's also kept in a dark bottle. If you see, when you walk through King Soopers or Kroger's and you see all the oils that are kept in a clear bottle, those are all carcasses. There's no nutritional value left in them because if they were, they would be rancid. Oil needs to be protected. That's why all the good oils will have wrapping around them. So if you're looking for an unsaturated oil, make sure it's an oil that's kept fresh, that's kept in the refrigerator ideally, and that's wrapped around with paper like you see the fancy olive oils. Now, there's two kinds of unsaturated oil. As problematic as unsaturated oils are, there's two kinds of unsaturated oils that stand out in importance. And these are two very special unsaturated oils that get the designation essential. What does the word essential mean? We talked about proteins that were essential. What does it mean? You absolutely must positively have it. We call these two special oils essential fats, or more technically, essential fatty acids. Correct. And you absolutely positively have to have them. You can tell you have a deficiency in essential fatty acids if you crave fatty foods. Sound familiar? Yeah. This is one of the neatest things about the body and about nutrition is our cravings can be a guide. We can use our cravings to tell us what we need. If you're craving sugar, that means you need more protein. If you're craving fat, that means you need more essential fatty acids. And you can test this for yourself. Go get a bottle of liquid essential fatty acid. There's a bunch of them at the health food store. I noticed there's one health food store. So is there more than one here?
Yes.
I saw a health food store called
Three.
I saw one called Earth something.
Good Earth. And then there's the Old Country Store, and then there's GNC.
All right. Well, GNC doesn't count.
Oh,
You should
okay.
don't ever go to GNC.
That's right.
Never go to
I never
GNC.
do.
Yeah, don't ever go to GNC. So yeah, that's a big problem. GNC.
It is a big.
So what you want to do is, if you want to test this out, and a lot of things I'm saying here today, if it sounds shocking to you, you should be testing this stuff out. Don't believe anything I say. Trust. I was a big Ronald Reagan fan, but I love when he said, "Trust yet verify." I love that because that should be a rule of thumb. That's a scientific method, actually. Is trust yet verify. Create a hypothesis, test it, and see how it works, and then see what happens, and then change your hypothesis if you need to. Trust yet verify. So listen to what I'm saying. Trust yet verify. Go tomorrow or whenever, go to the health food store and get yourself some liquid oil, some liquid essential fatty acids, and get the bottle, take the top off, and look maybe half the bottle, right? Then drive by McDonald's and smell the French fries. Just smell the French. Just the smell of French fries will make you sick after you've ingested enough essential fatty acid liquid. Let alone try to eat the French fries. There's no way you could possibly eat it because once you met your body's need for essential fat, it will not let you get more fat. And the reason why we have such a problem staying away from fat is because we're not getting the quality fat that we need. Once you get the quality fat you need, your body will not let you eat more fat. How many of you guys have tried the essential fatty acids, the ultimate EFAs? One of the things you notice when you've been on the ultimate EFAs for a long enough period of time is you lose your craving for fats. You don't want to eat as much fatty foods anymore. And this is what's supposed to happen. If you have an insatiable need for fats or unquenchable need for fats where you just have to keep eating fat, that's a sign that you're missing essential fatty acids. And given that word essential, that's a big problem. Do you guys see what we're doing in here? We're hacking into the body and hacking into our disease states and hacking into our degeneration so we can convert it into health. If you have a problem craving fats, that's your body saying, I need some EFAs. I need to get some more EFAs. There's signs, by the way, that you can tell, bodily signs, ways that you can tell that you're deficient in EFAs, and chief among them is a health condition that should never happen, but happens to everybody, probably everybody in this room. And that is dry skin. Now, I've been in the skincare business for 30 years. Some of you guys know that. And I've formulated hundreds of skincare products, and I've sold many millions of dollars of skincare products that I've formulated. I'm here to tell you, nobody should ever, ever need a moisturizer. Nobody. Your skin is designed by God and the divine force to always be moist and soft. Always. Always. How many people do you know have dry skin? It's everybody. Not 99%, 99.9% after a certain age, people have dry skin. And that is just a window to how deficient we are and to how sick we are. Dry skin is a cry for essential fatty acids. If you want to induce dry skin, rob the body of essential fatty acids. I'm telling you, this is somebody who creates moisture. You know, I have a special kind of moisturizer. I don't make standard moisturizers, but here's a little tip for you ladies. It's mostly ladies who are using moisturizers, I noticed, and mostly ladies, by the way, who have fat problems, because, not that men don't, because there's a relationship between estrogen and lack thereof and our ability to absorb fats, which is why you'll notice after menopause, your skin gets much drier, because you don't absorb fats as well, which is why it's extra important for postmenopausal women to be using essential fatty acids. In any case, if you are using a moisturizer on a regular basis, what you're doing is even worse than not using a moisturizer at all. Because what a moisturizer does is it suppresses your own natural moisture factors. So that if you want to guarantee that you're on a moisturizer for the rest of your life, make sure you use a moisturizer. Who do you think benefits from that? Right? The more moisturizer you use, the more you need. Now, I learned my skincare craft working for Blistex. That's where I learned how to do skincare. I work for the Blistex Corporation. I was telling you guys last night, I was trained by the guy who invented Blistex. And let me tell you, this phenomena where the more cream you use, the more moisturizer you use, the more you need, we love that at Blistex. Because have you noticed the more Blistex you use, or the more lip medicine you use, the more you need? See, your lips are external to your body. They're the most outermost part of your body, and they are loaded with something called natural moisture factors. They're loaded with natural moisturizers, but the more lip balm you put on, the more you suppress those moisture factors. The body's very economical. It says, well, we don't need to make any more of these moisture factors, so it shuts down the production of the moisture factors, and the same is true about moisturizing creams. The dumbest thing you could ever put on your dry skin is a moisturizer. Yet we have a culture where that's just par for the course. Just another example of how we are predated upon. Just another example of how we're prey to people who are selling us products like this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you just take essential fatty acids.
Essential fatty acids, probably a few other things you can use, but essential fatty acids are the bulk of it. Vitamin A, not necessarily E, but vitamin A. I didn't get your question. You had a question earlier.
You say butter.
Yes. Butter.
Define what you mean by butter.
The stuff that comes that you churn like this, that used to be milk, the real stuff, as opposed to what?
But over-the-counter butter.
Land O'Lakes.
Well, you know, I mean, if you know somebody who's churning it, that's probably the best way to do it.
Amish butter.
You can go there.
Organic, right?
Yeah.
Organic always.
Oh,
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it again, but organic always. You guys know what organic means?
No pesticides.
It means no pesticides, correct, and I think no antibiotics also. No artificial inducements to grow. And when a plant is organic and doesn't have pesticides, it has to make its own natural chemicals that we call nutrients. Plants that have pesticides don't have to make as much nutrients. They don't need to make the nutrients because they don't have to make their own pesticides, natural pesticides, which is what we call nutrients, because we're using artificial pesticides. So organic vegetation tends to have more nutritional value, plus you don't have to worry about the toxicity. I'm not going to say organic again, but absolutely always organic, wherever possible. Wherever possible.
I want you to clarify that.
Wherever possible. Yeah, Land O'Lakes, you know, obviously, sometimes you don't have any option. You got to go Land O'Lakes, but that's not your ideal source of butter. You always want to go organic butter. Absolutely.
So are you ruining the butter if you clarify it?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so
No.
that's a healthier.
No, it's a healthier way to do it, probably.
Great way to cook, yeah.
All right. Should we? Yes.
Ghee or?
Ghee. You're talking about ghee. Yes.
Is there foods that have essential fatty acids? Because I have grandparents
Let me talk about food.
that won't.
Let me talk about the thing about essential fatty acids in food. Yes, essential fatty acids are a food compound. However, like with protein, they're very unstable to processing. And so if you're going to get essential fatty acids from food, you're going to have to make sure that you're eating your food as unprocessed as possible. And with grains, that becomes very difficult. And grains are the main source of omega-6 fats. Let me tell you, there's two types of this. I said already, there's two types. We call them omega-6 and omega-3. You guys have all heard that term, right? Omega-6 and omega-3. Those are the two names.